Hi again. Just in case you forgot, my name is Hal. I'm the IT Service Management Director at Liddy International. I'm here to help you learn about ITIL and how we are implementing these best practices at Liddy. In addition, I'm going to provide you with tips.
The ITIL lifecycle stages are also known as the ITIL core, the center of best. To help you understand how ITIL can guide many business solutions, let's take a look at the following case study. Meet John, an ITIL instructor. Let's join John's class as he asks a group of people to participate in a small exercise to demonstrate how ITIL could guide them through a business problem.
Once the group finished their work, Carol was nominated to present their recent business problem. Welcome back from the break. As promised, we are going to take Carol's example and step it through the ITIL processes to see what might have happened if, in fact, you were using ITIL best practices. Remember in the example, we had a bunch of incidents come into the service desk after changes following a Thursday night change window. The service desk activities and the initial handling of the incidents takes place within the ITIL incident management process. As it turns out, several changes were made Thursday night. As the incidents were coming in the following morning, the analysts on the service desk were taking calls and then recording and assigning classifications to those calls. This classification will help the service desk manager to realize that all calls were related to the email system. As the calls were first being recorded and assessed, the analysts took a first look to see if they could diagnose and resolve the incident. In our example, the incident was not something that the service desk could resolve. There were two reasons for this. They were not sure what was causing the issue, and they also did not have the experience to resolve it, so they escalated to the next level of support. This is called functional escalation. This involves finding out who is responsible for the systems, since the analysts didn't have the technical knowledge to restore and resolve the service. In ITIL, we also talk about different levels of escalation, where the service desk is level 1 support, general support teams are level 2 support, and expert support teams form level 3 support. Continuing our example, if level 2 support can't restore and resolve within defined time limits, then they would functionally escalate to the final level 3 support teams. This is all happening under the incident management process, and the resulting activities are all focused at getting the affected IT services up and running again as quickly as possible, and by whatever means are necessary. Their actions may be permanent or a simple quick fix. Under such urgency, you can see that an accurate diagnosis may be missed and that the incident may reoccur. Or worse, the current incident may be made worse. In this case, ITIL suggests that all major incidents also be investigated by problem management. Problem management has responsibility to take the proper time to investigate, to find, and to remedy the true root cause or problem that caused the initial incident. Because this investigation, called root cause analysis, takes time, it makes sense to separate it from the incident process. After all, we don't want our users waiting for days while we do this investigation. After finding the root cause of the incident, one final question that should be asked is, why were the changes made in the first place? We'll discuss this later. Now remember the CIO was getting calls? The partners were calling her from Chicago wondering what was going on. Using ITIL, the service desk manager would have escalated the incident to the CIO early on. In ITIL terms, that is called hierarchical escalation. Hierarchical escalations happen, by definition, whenever we go outside of our normal service levels defined by a service level agreement. You might ask, well, where did the service level agreements come from? At the top of our chart under service level management. Now sometimes they are not formally in place but just written down or understood. It takes time to get all of this done in an organization. But at least we have an understanding that there is a service level we are supposed to provide to the business. If we are outside of that service level by ITIL definition, we are in a crisis situation which requires a hierarchical escalation. Service level management would be involved to manage the customers of the affected service. Wouldn't it be nice if the CIO knew before the partners called from Chicago that she had an issue and the team was working on it? That's one of the benefits that ITIL provides. How can other ITIL processes be reactive and contribute to resolving this incident? Incident support levels and problem teams would ask the question, what changed? In the ITIL world, there's more than one way to answer this question. Incident support levels and problem teams would use the Configuration Management database from Service Asset and Configuration Management. This database contains information about all of the IT components that are in production and how these components are related. So you can imagine in this case that teams would have seen right away the servers that are impacted with performance issues and that the problem is in Chicago. This kind of information helps to resolve the incident and solve the problem much faster. The change process would have maintained an audit trail of change records. The time spent looking through all the different logs would not have occurred, and the support levels and problem teams would have known exactly what had happened and who was involved. How can other ITIL processes be proactive and contribute to preventing this incident in the first place? A benefit from the change process is that all of the changes would have been evaluated by a board called the Change Advisory Board. That would have happened several weeks in advance. This board would have been a critical check along the way to ensure that the planned changes were well researched and documented before being allowed to move forward. There may have been questions raised from the start that would have prevented the failed change. Assuming the change was approved, the next check within change management would occur during the production of something called a forward schedule of changes. That schedule would have planned, probably 2 weeks before, all of the things that were going to be changed that Thursday night. Multiple changes on the same night that affect the same IT service would typically not have been allowed, and again, this failed change may not have occurred. Continuing to follow the ITIL framework, release and deployment management would be responsible for testing and rollback plans. And operationally, event management may have contributed even before the incident was recognized by users. Event management includes monitoring of critical IT components and their operational status. The network folks would have been watching their monitors and realized that the bandwidth was being fully utilized between New York and Chicago. This information would trigger the network team to report an incident to the service desk that in turn would trigger actions guided by the service level agreement. Corrective actions would be taken immediately to minimize the business impact, the extent of service disruption noticed by users, of the incident. Back to problem management, we return to the question, why were the changes made in the first place? The answer to that question would have been that the servers needed to be upgraded in order to meet the capacity to serve our customers and provide them with email on an ongoing basis. The backup change is addressed in the continuity management process. Since email is critical, there may be compliance issues. Emails need to be stored, saved, and referenced for a number of years, so continuity management and security play into the decision that caused the changes to be made in the first place. So all the right reasons existed to make the changes, but you can see how repeatable processes might help prevent some of the errors we saw in this case. The last piece I'll point out to you is that in service catalog management, one of the things that feed incident and change is the cost of having a service catalog. This is used to see what services are being provided today, who they are for, and which teams support them. All of this provides information into the process in the event of a crisis, so it helps to restore service as quickly as possible. So all the right reasons existed to make the changes, but you can see how repeatable processes might help prevent some of the errors we saw in this case. The last piece I'll point out to you is that in service catalog management, one of the things that feed incident and change is the cost of having a service catalog. This is used to see what services are being provided today, who they are for, and which teams support them. All of this provides information into the process in the event of a crisis, so it helps to restore service as quickly as possible. All of these things, as you can see, are lining up. The objective here is to stay aligned with the business and provide better service levels. So if things are done in a repeatable process, service levels go up and better benefits are being delivered to the business for the amount of money being spent. Any questions?
Now that you've sat in on part of an ITIL class, you should have a conceptual understanding of how these best practices, including processes, can help to manage and resolve incidents. Implementing ITIL before incidents occur can help to eliminate many of the incidents you may currently be experiencing. The next 5 lessons in this module will explore each of the 5 ITIL lifecycle stages in more detail. The processes for each of these stages will be discussed in Module 3.